Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. My name is Arif, and tonight I will be your guide to a night of restful sleep. We will relax and unwind with this classic Chinese tale, The Rock Maiden, a story about loyalty and love in its purest form. Before we begin, however, let us take a moment to relax and find comfort in the space that we are in now. Close your eyes and allow your body to sink into the mattress. With your eyes closed, allow your mind to wander, untethered and free. Picture a boat on a calm sea during a brilliant starry night. You can see hundreds of stars reflected in the glassy water. As you inhale, try to imagine the sails of the boat rippling slightly as the boat is gently pushed forward by the wind. When you hold your breath, you're going to imagine that boat simply gliding to a stop. And as you exhale, you're going to picture the boat moving along the water at a steady pace, with its sails rippling from your breath. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Continue to breathe, feeling the rhythm of your breaths and watching the rhythm of the boat on that glassy water. Watch the way the sails wave with your breaths and relax in the absence of them. Feel the hidden power you have to guide everything exactly where it needs to go. Watch the boat moving slowly, slowly, and coming to a gentle stop. See the sailors tending to the sails with attention and care, and then watch as your breath sends the sailboat on to a peaceful, starry horizon. Watch the stars twinkle, promising smooth sailing for the remainder of the night. Now that we've taken time to relax and find comfort in the space we are in, let us begin with our story. It was a rainy day in the coastal village. The streets were full of children playing in puddles and dancing in the steadily falling downpour. Adults and teenagers alike scurried through the streets, ducking in and out of warm buildings to escape the drizzle. Others meandered through the streets, twirling umbrellas over their heads and watching raindrop after raindrop catch on the top and then roll off to the soft ground below. Ling Yi was one of those people. She wandered through the streets, twirling her umbrella mindlessly, taking in all the beauty that the rain-washed streets had to offer. Everything smelled so much fresher when the rain fell. She could smell the savory, inviting aroma of the soups and dumplings cooking in street vendors' booths. The steam from the cooking seemed to rise in thicker clouds than usual whenever storms descended upon the town. She could smell the invigorating aroma of the ancient cypress trees that peppered the mountainside just behind the town. And as she neared the harbor, she could breathe in the briny smell of the ocean that stretched to the far horizon. All the fishermen greeted her with warm smiles. They asked her how the new baby was, and she promptly responded by turning her back so they could see her daughter, who was safely swaddled on her back. The fishermen all swooned over the girl, promising that she would be safe as long as they were around. Ling Yi couldn't help but smile at all these men. They, too, had become her family since she married Hai. She saw the men often because she met Hai at the docks as soon as he returned from fishing every afternoon. Even after being married for 3 years, Hai's face still lit up at the sight of Ling Yi. Sometimes he would still be on the boat when he would spot her. He would stumble to his feet, sometimes tripping over nets and ropes to get to Ling Yi as fast as possible. Though they had only gone a few hours without seeing each other, every moment they were apart seemed impossible to bear. They were soulmates in every sense of the word. They supported each other in all their endeavors. They laughed with each other, and they cried together. Some nights, they would sneak outside once the baby was asleep and lie in the grass, watching the stars in each other's arms. They would tell jokes and giggle, but when they weren't laughing or speaking to one another, the silence was just as sweet. They were completely vulnerable and comfortable with each other in ways that most couples are not. Though they were poor and lived in a rather small home, they both felt rather rich. They knew they had something that few other people in the world had: true, unbreakable love. Ling Yi and Hai walked away from the docks, fingers intertwined. Hai held the umbrella over Ling Yi as they made their way back through town. They followed the winding stone paths up the mountain and into the woods until their small home came into view. Behind the home, there was a simple creek that was perfect for washing clothes. On a day like today, the creek was practically overflowing, filling the entire forest grove with a soothing melody of moving water. It was as if you could hear the cool water dancing over every smooth rock and every fallen branch. Beyond the creek, there was a bamboo grove. On days like today, it made a symphony unlike any other. If you listened closely, you could hear the crackle and clatter of the bamboo as it brushed against each other. The hollow sound of the branches swaying could put Ling Yi to sleep in minutes. That night, they settled down to have a freshly made stew for dinner. The minute the door opened, Hai was overwhelmed by the incredible aroma. Ling Yi always cared for Hai in a way that no other person ever had. She cooked his favorites and relished in watching his reaction as he ate. After dinner, they put their darling daughter to bed. For quite some time, they sat by the fire and watched as she breathed peacefully. They wondered aloud what the sweet girl was dreaming about as they watched her twitch and smile in her sublime slumber. The two retired to bed. As they lay under the covers, Hai drew Ling Yi close. He kissed her forehead and held onto her tightly with his eyes closed, simply enjoying having her close. Ling Yi wrapped her arms around his neck, her breathing slowing with every passing, peaceful second. "I love you, my darling," Hai mumbled dreamily, giving Ling Yi one final hug. "And I love you, my darling, in this life and in the next," Ling Yi responded. In this life and in the next. The words were like honey on his lips. Soon, the two were fully asleep, embracing one another. When morning came, Hai slipped out without waking Ling Yi. With the baby, she rarely had the chance to sleep in. He wanted her to rest up, to have the energy to face the day. So he hovered in the doorway just before he left. He watched her chest rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall. He tiptoed over, blew his daughter a kiss, then slipped out the door. He found himself in a torrential downpour, but he left the umbrella. He knew that Ling Yi would insist on meeting him at the docks, and he would rather deal with wet clothes than worry about her or the baby being cold on her walk to see him. He walked to work as usual, filled to the brim with gratitude and love. His job was not easy, but it gave him the ability to support the two most important people in his life. And because of that, he was a lucky man. Ling Yi awakened to the sound of rain pouring over the roof. The wind howled against the trees and the bamboo grove just behind her. She could hear the bamboo clatter against each other like wind chimes, echoing far across the land. She reached over for Hai, only to find a note in his place. It read, "I love you, my darling, in this life and in the next. I'll see you soon." Ling Yi held the note to her chest in admiration. She felt so fortunate to have found a love like the one she shared with Hai. For most of the day, she cuddled with her baby girl. She started a stew on the stove and relaxed as she watched the steam fill the damp house. The smell of the stew and its warmth created such a cozy atmosphere. She found her eyes growing heavier and heavier by the second. The day passed in that kind of blissful calm. She cared for the baby, wrote some letters on the porch as the rain fell around her, and stirred the stew when the occasion called for it. When it was time to go see Hai, she strapped her daughter to her back and walked down to the harbor with her umbrella, smiling at everyone she passed. But when she arrived at the docks, things were very different. The sailors did not greet her with smiles. In fact, there were very few sailors to even greet her. Those that were on the docks looked forlorn and exhausted. When she asked what happened, the sailors could only respond by shaking their heads and looking to the ground. The storm, a few of them managed. They destroyed many ships. We lost many sailors. Ling Yi shook her head in disbelief. Her husband could not be lost. He was a masterful sailor, a good person, the love of her life. She sat on the dock for hours waiting for him. She listened to the water wash against the shore, then recede, wash against the shore, then recede, wash against the shore, then recede. As the day passed into afternoon and the afternoon into night, the fishermen that remained urged her to go home. Eventually, several of them walked her home. The majority of the afternoon was a blur, and though Ling Yi was distraught, hope was not lost. "I know my husband is still alive," she told the fisherman. Her voice didn't waver. Her tone was one of conviction, of absolute certainty. The night was long, and when morning came, Ling Yi didn't do her usual routine. Instead, she gathered her baby, put her on her back, and began to climb up the mountain. The trail was long and arduous, especially in the enduring rain. She passed by ancient cypress trees and groves of bamboo that laced up the side of the mountain. She paused on several occasions to catch her breath and enjoy the view. When she reached the top, she stood on a single rock. From the peak of the tallest mountain on the island, she could see everything. She gazed out into the sea, looking for her husband's boat. She knew deep down that her husband was alive. The string that connected the two of them had not been severed. Inside, she felt him still with her. She could almost hear him telling jokes. She could almost feel his warm gaze on her. If her husband had been lost in the storm, he would find his way back to her. They were going to be together in this life and in the next. In his note, he had said he would see her soon. She knew her husband would never break a promise. She stood on top of that rock until the sun began to set on the distant horizon. When night began to fall, she returned home to sleep for the night. And when the sun rose again, she journeyed to the top of the mountain to look out for her husband's ship. This lasted for weeks. Every single day, she spent hours sitting in silence at the top of the hill. The sailors often came to sit with her, trying to convince her to come back down to town. They'd bring her food and words of encouragement, but she didn't budge. She knew her husband would be coming home to her soon. Within a month or two, the whole town knew about Ling Yi. But they weren't the only ones. Tin Hua, the goddess of fishermen, took notice of this loyal woman. For several days, Tin Hua watched Ling Yi from the clouds, her mind filled with both admiration and sorrow. She could see the pain Ling Yi was in, She could see her failing to take care of herself. She could see her wanting so badly for her husband that it was challenging to continue on. A gracious goddess, Tinhua, came down to the island to speak with Ling Yi on a particularly rainy day. I know you dream of being reunited with your husband, but the days you lie in wait are painful, aren't they, my child? Tinhua asked. Ling Yi nodded at the goddess. Then I give you this gift, Ling Yi. Tinhua stepped forward, gently placing her hand on Ling Yi's shoulder. A flash of light appeared between the two as magic filled the air. Ling Yi was turned to stone with her daughter, high up on the mountaintop. The smooth stone seemed to sparkle even on the dreary day. It faced the ocean, still keeping watch for the ship that was destined to come. Tinhua placed her hand on the rock that was once Ling Yi. She whispered to the stone, "You may sleep for now, my child, and when the time comes, I will see you again." Tinhua disappeared, leaving the stone to stand tall and proud on the mountaintop. The stone's gaze shot out over the horizon and focused on a single small island, an island that Hai had called home for several weeks. The storm had, indeed, destroyed his ship. In the rush of water, Hai prayed to Tinhua for guidance. The current seemed to sweep him away from the world of dark blue and gray. When he opened his mouth to breathe again, he found himself on a small island. It was nothing but a beach and a small hill with a dense forest. But Hai dropped to his knees and kissed the land, thanking Tinhua for her kindness. As soon as he got his bearings, he turned to look at his home island, far in the distance. He could barely make it out through the thick fog, yet it still filled him with hope. Quietly, he promised his wife that he would return for her. In time, he would be back for her, just like he had promised. But first, he had to survive. Hai journeyed into the small forest, using bamboo and palm fronds to construct himself a makeshift home. In the dense forest, he was protected from the elements, safe from the bitterly cold rain and the harsh monsoon winds. At night, he would curl up in his makeshift home by a cozy fire. He would watch the light dance against the palm fronds, creating waves of light and shadow that soothed his soul, even in a situation as dire as his own. Out of all things, he found great comfort in that, and he knew exactly why. When he and Ling Yi had just met, they took a walk on a beach one evening. It was the very beginning of their courtship, when they were just growing to know one another. At the end of the walk, Hai could see Ling Yi rubbing her hands for warmth. Hai dropped to his knees immediately and started a fire for her, even though she hadn't asked for one. Ling Yi was incredibly grateful. The two sat by the flames of the fire for hours. It was then that their walls started to come down. They allowed themselves to act goofy, to be their true selves. Sometime long after midnight, Ling Yi started making shadow puppets with the fire against the rocks. Hai laughed and joined in. Until the sun rose, they sat right by the fire, making shadow puppets and laughing with one another. When the sun started to rise, they ran back to town together, hand in hand. And when they separated, Ling Yi gave Hai his first kiss. That memory always brought Hai comfort, even in a situation as uncomfortable as the one he was in now. But that memory also gave him hope. He knew no matter what it took, he would return to his wife and his daughter. They had memories to make together, a future that they needed to live. So, every day, Hai would stand on the beach waving palm fronds, hoping that someone would see him. He knew it was an unlikely area to fish at, but he knew at some point someone would come, and he would wait as long as that took. He spent his days on the beach and his nights in his little hut, watching the fire dance and sway, dreaming of the future where he would be able to hold his wife and baby. But one day, Hai was awakened early by the sound of someone yelling his name. He rose from bed in a hurry and made his way to the beach. There, he saw one of his fellow fishermen. When the fisherman saw Hai, he ran to his side and embraced him in disbelief. "You came looking for me?" Hai exclaimed, tears racing down his cheeks. The fisherman nodded, wiping tears from his own eyes. "I had to. Your wife has spent every single day waiting for you to come home. She said she felt you. None of us thought you had made it, but she made us want to search. She was so sure that you were alive." Hai smiled, fully letting the tears go now. his wife, his sweet, incredible wife. It was because of her faith that he had been found. With no hesitation, Hai hopped on the boat and began the journey home. The boat bobbed over the waves, inching closer and closer to the moment that Hai would be reunited with his loves. The fog cleared as they neared the island. Hai could feel his wife's presence. He could almost feel her in his arms. When they arrived on the dock, Hai stumbled over ropes and nets trying to scramble ashore. The fishermen all tried to greet him, but Hai was determined. "Where is my wife, please?" he asked. The fisherman told him she had waited on top of the tallest mountain, awaiting his return. Hai made his way up the mountain, smiling with every step he took. He passed through the ancient cedar forests, through the groves of bamboo, and on to the top of the mountain. He expected to see his beautiful Ling Yi, but instead, he was met with a large rock. He called out to her, desperate for her, but she was nowhere to be seen. After a few moments, a light appeared before him. Tin Hua emerged from the light, a look of gentle understanding etched on her face. She urged Hai to sit down beside her. "Hai, you have a love story unlike any I've experienced across the seas. Your wife waited every day on this mountaintop for you, waiting for you to return to her. I could see her pain growing with every passing day, so I took pity on her and turned her to stone." As Tin Hua explained, Hai placed his hand gently on the stone. Tin Hua continued, "And I will take pity on you again. Your love is pure, and your loyalty is unmatched. Please, continue to be kind to one another and live your lives the way they are meant to be lived." Tin Hua snapped her fingers, engulfing the entire area in a purple light. When the light faded, Hai saw his beautiful wife and daughter standing before him. He wrapped his arms around them, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I knew you would come back to me," Ling Yi cried, kissing her husband's cheeks. "I felt you. I knew you were still with me." Reunited, the family made their way back home, the smiles on their faces eternal. When they arrived back home, they sat on the back porch, watching the rain fall down. With every blissful gaze they shared, a promise was made. "I love you in this life, and I'll love you in the next." I hope you've enjoyed this sleep story, and it has helped you get a night of restful sleep. Please Join me again tomorrow for another bedtime story. Until then, sweet dreams.